So you just got your first drum kit, or maybe you just gave somebody their first drum kit and have absolutely no idea how to set it up. Well, in this video, I'm going to show you 5 key points to effectively setting up your drum set. Now, whether you're a seasoned drummer or this is the first drum kit that you have ever owned, or maybe have given to somebody and you need to set it up for them, this video is going to help you make sure that it is set up for the player, not set up and having the player contort their body to the kit.
This video was made to supplement the article of the same subject at Drum Factory Direct, the world's largest retail drum parts supplier.
It's like a candy store, but for drummers!
Now, before we get started, make sure you hit the subscribe button, as well as the bell notification. That way you're notified of any additional content that I upload to the channel. So in this video, I'm going to show you those 5 key points to make sure that the kit is set up effectively and ergonomically correct for you. Now, as you can see, I am sitting behind my drum kit and it's already set up. So we have to start from the beginning with nothing here. So to start out with setting up your drum kit, the first thing is the seat itself. You want to make sure that you're in a space that allows you to set up and build the kit around you, rather than putting it somewhere and then adjusting your body to the kit. So with the seat, you place it down and then you actually want to make sure that your seat height is the proper height. Now, a lot of folks end up sitting way too low. It's actually the opposite. You want to think about as if you are riding a bike. When you ride a bike, your hips are higher than your knees to make it easier for you to pedal and keep moving forward. If you ever tried to ride a bike where your knees are above your hips, you will notice it's super difficult, number one. Number two, even if you do that sitting down, you'll feel all of the weight of your body goes into your lower back. This is why a lot of famous drummers who were sitting super low in the 70s and 80s now have back issues. So with that being said, if you look over to the side camera, you will notice that my seat might look like I'm sitting super high, but it actually allows my hips to be higher than my knees. So if you look from my hips, working down to the knee, it gradually slopes down to the knee. Now, again, if I were to adjust this and make it just a little bit lower, or if I go all the way to the lowest setting, there we go, you could probably notice that my knees are now higher than my hips if I'm still in the frame there. And that could be an issue because, again, you now have more of that weight in your lower back. So you want to make those adjustments. Now, a lot of folks will talk about making sure that your hips are parallel with your knees. And although that might work for some, again, it is still allowing you and forcing you to put weight into your legs, which then makes it harder to play. So again, adjust that seat. And I know for a fact, at least with this seat, I am almost maxed out at the very top. Again, hips down to the knees and a gradual slope downwards. Now, when you do that, you're going to notice that you actually have a lot of freedom with your legs. So if you look up at the top camera there, you will notice that I can actually go back and forth, lifting both my right and my left leg. And then you can see from either the side camera or this front camera, I'm not shifting back and forth like this while I play. That's showing me that I am actually sitting at the right height. So now that the seat is set up at the proper height, the next step is simply to lift both of your legs and drop them to the ground. When you do that, you will notice your knees are in line with your feet, in line with your ankles, everything else. Notice how my knees aren't off to the side of my feet or my toes. That's how I know that my legs are set up in a way that ligaments and tendons aren't twisting and contorting in a way that can be unnatural and uncomfortable. So now that all of that is in place, it's time to start piecing the kit together. We're going to start out with the kick drum. All right, so now that bass drum's in place, you can look at the top camera and see, again, lift your feet, drop them down, making sure that everything is in line with one another, which it is. You can see here, especially with this, since I have one of those hoop guards from Twin City Drum Collective, which I couldn't recommend more, you can see everything's going to be lined up here. So now the next step is getting that bass drum pedal and putting it on the kick drum. Now for this video, I am only going to be setting up a single pedal and not a double pedal, only because the majority of folks who have a drum kit are going to have a single pedal configuration. For this, I have the Ludwig Speed Flyer pedal. So now that that is set up, again, if you look at that top camera, you're going to notice knees are over top of my ankles, which again are tracking to my toes. My knees aren't inwards or outwards like so. So now the next step is snare drum. All right, so let's go ahead and grab our hi-hat stand and put that in place. Now, once again, as you're putting that stand in place, making sure that you lift both of your legs and drop them down. Now, if you look at that top cam, once again, everything is in line. My knees are over my ankles. They are tracking to the toes of both of my feet. So you can see that's actually where the hi-hat stand is going to go. All right, so let's talk about pedal placement for a second. If you look from the top cam, you're going to notice the ends of my feet are not all the way up the pedal like this. They're actually a bit further back. This is kind of preference as well. Some people will talk about how the end of your foot should actually be at the widest part of the pedal. I myself, with my foot, feels as if it's too far back and that the center portion of my foot is now hitting the heel plate rather than the pedal itself. You'll see as the wider part starts to narrow, that's actually where my foot goes, and you can see it actually kind of fits nicely. Now, where your pedals are placed is important because you want to make sure, again, your knees are over top of your ankles. If you're sitting too far back, or if your pedals are too far away, you will notice that your knees are now behind your ankles. Now, although you can still play, you're not really getting a whole lot of leverage because the weight of your legs is now shifted backwards. Now the extreme opposite, if the pedals are too close or you're sitting too close to your drum kit, which is also a very common thing that occurs, now all of a sudden your knees are past your ankles. And what is happening now is all of the weight of your body is in your legs. Although you can still play, one, you'll notice that my legs aren't in line and tracking anymore. My knees are bowing out a little bit. And two, when I'm in this rest position, notice how the beater is now resting against the head of the drum, which means in order to play, I have to lift my foot in order to drop again and play. And as soon as I did that here, I'm feeling tension here on my left side because I have to shift the weight of my body in order to do that. So once again, when you're at that proper seat height and you're sitting correctly on your drum seat, you put those pedals in a place that allows for the ends of your feet to be either in the widest portion of the pedal or right where it begins to narrow. And that's how you know they're in the right space. So you're now sitting at the proper height correctly on your drum throne. The pedals are in the proper place. Now let's talk about setting up the rest of the kit. I brought the snare drum over earlier. The next step is making sure that the snare drum is at the proper height. In order to determine that, you want to actually have a pair of sticks, hold them in both hands, rest them to your side. Then you want to close your eyes and bend from your elbows as if you're about to strike that snare drum. Once you do that, open your eyes, look down. You want to make sure by doing that, that from your elbow to your wrist, it's actually in a neutral position. So if you look over at that side cam again, you'll notice that my wrist isn't in a positive reflection or a negative reflection in order to strike the drum. At the same time, you want to make sure that you are checking into your shoulders. If that drum is too high but you're in a neutral position, you may start to shrug your shoulders a bit. So again, relax shoulders, down at your side, bend from your elbow, and then that is the neutral playing position for you. Now for me, I like to play rim shots when I'm playing backbeats, which means I'm hitting the hoop as well as the head at the same time. This puts me in that right position in order to do that and not have to worry about overextending. Additionally, when you're going into this placement, notice from the top cam where the tips of my sticks are, they're right at the middle of the drum. You'll also see from the side cam that if you go from my shoulder down to my elbow, it's all in line with itself. I'm not stretching forward like so, and I'm also not doing T-Rex arms like this, which have your shoulder blades pinched together in your back. Again, nice and natural, shoulders are relaxed and dropped to the ground. Tips of the sticks are right there in the middle of the drum. I know I'm in the good spot. So now that's all set up in place, let's go ahead and grab our ride cymbal. All right, so with the ride cymbal, it's the same concept here. Grab your sticks, rest them to your side, close your eyes, and move your dominant hand up to where you think you would strike that cymbal. Once you do that, open your eyes. Again, making sure that you're not shrugging your shoulders, pulling your arms back, or reaching forward. That's why you want to make sure you keep your eyes closed as you do this. Now, when you open your eyes, you will see, in this case with my cymbal, in order for me to strike like so, I'm in a neutral position here. Now in my setup, I'm not mounting any toms off of my bass drum, so I have to suspend my rack tom off of my cymbal stand. Now in order to make sure that that is in the proper place, just like everywhere else, sticks in hands, drop them down to the side, close your eyes, bend from the elbows as if you're about to strike that cymbal, and open your eyes. You will notice exactly where that's supposed to be. In this case, I actually have to move the whole stand over to the left a little bit. That'll allow me to hit that cymbal without an issue. Okay, so once again, check. We're actually in a good spot there, so I can hit the edge of the cymbal with the shoulder of my stick. And notice how with my shoulders here, I'm not shrugging in order to play, and all set to go. If you have a configuration like this, where it's just hi-hat, crash, ride cymbal, you're all set up, ready to go. You're also going to notice as you go to play around the kit, let's say if I wanted to play snare drum, rack tom, floor tom, I can do so easily, and actually my sticks are hitting the middle of the drums. Also, I can go back and forth between my right and my left foot without my weight shifting to either side. So now if I wanted to play just a groove on the kit, I can do so, and I'm not adjusting or moving my body around in ways or shrugging my shoulders. Everything is set up to me. Now, once you have that all in place, it's time to talk about angles of everything. So for me, since I usually am playing rim shots when I play my backbeats, I like my snare drum to be flat. Sometimes you will see, especially in older times, drums were shifted away from people. This is just going back to Revolutionary War times because back then drums were slung over shoulders and on an extreme angle. This is also why people played traditional grip. Then, of course, we got into the 70s and 80s and it was the exact opposite. People were sitting way too low as if they were on a lazy boy, and then they were angling the drums high and towards them. Well, then all of a sudden you're going to have these extreme reflections in your wrist in order to strike the drum because the angles are too extreme. So, once again, making sure that you're in a neutral position. Now, as far as your toms are concerned, especially your rack tom, a lot of people like it to be low and flat, depending on whoever your favorite drummer is. But if you are going through this process, you will see you should be able to hit the middle of the drum and not have to go over top of the hoop. If that drum is too flat, you might have to actually do that. If it's angled too far towards you, then again, your wrist is going to be in a positive position like this in order to play the drum. All of those tendons here, they're going to be way too stretched out, could hurt yourself over time. So there's actually a couple more components to my drum kit. So I'm going to grab the 2 additional cymbals that I set up to my right, your left. That way you can see what this all finally looks like. So now that the kit is set up, the next step is get all those microphones back so you can hear and see how comfortable I actually am behind the kit. So regardless of the situation, whether it's your kit, you're borrowing somebody's kit on a gig, there's a backline kit, or you're in a school setting and you're using the school's drum kit, those 5 key points of making sure that your seat is set up at the proper height, it's at the proper placement of the kit distance-wise, as well as making sure that your pedals are in the right space so that way your knees are over top of your ankles and tracking your toes. And then finally setting up the kit to make sure that those heights are at the right spots where you're not shrugging your shoulders, reaching too far forward, or pulling too far back where your shoulder blades are now starting to meet. And then adjusting your angles to make sure that your wrists are in a neutral position rather than a positive or a negative when you go to strike any drum or cymbal. And one final thing to keep in mind, if you are somebody who is still growing in height, make sure that you keep revisiting how your drum set is set up. You may set it up in a way that works for you when you're a little bit smaller, but as you continue to grow and get taller, you want to make sure that you are adjusting your kit accordingly and not keeping it set up the same way. Now, if you have any feedback or any additional questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below, and I'll try and help out in any way that I can. Now, if you are viewing this video on YouTube and you found it helpful and informative, please make sure that you give it a thumbs up. That is going to help other people find it a bit easier. And that is it. Thank you so much for checking out this video. And now that your kit is set up effectively, go ahead, play them and have fun. Till next time, see you later.